how do I describe my album? I don't know. Like, to me, it's like almost like, I feel like I used to describe it as like my coming of age album. But then I feel like every album is going to feel that way because it's such a growth experience. But I feel like this album more than most has been the most growing I've done. Like, there's been, there was like no other co-writers on this album. So I feel like I've had to do the most growing, the most like excavating, the most, overcoming, voices that say I can't, you know what I mean? Like, it's been the most.
So you had to say yes to you, like, and believing 100%,
constantly,
and
every
it's
day.
all on you.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, exactly. That's what it did feel like that for sure. And luckily, my two producers and collaborators, Gincho and Jasper, and Gincho, who's my executive producer from the beginning, was very like, you got this. Like, you don't need anybody else. Like, so I think having people around who instilled that confidence in me is everything. Because I don't really like, when people are like, you have to love yourself before you love others. I truly believe that it happens simultaneously. And I actually think it's more important for others to love you before you love yourself. Like, at least that's how it's been in my life. Like, having a community and having people around me who make me feel safe and believed in and supported has done way more for my confidence and my relationship with myself than like saying affirmations to myself in front of the mirror.
This album is so different from the last thing you did, which was so different from the first thing you did. How long have you had this album in your pocket?
I've had this album in its finished form, maybe like 3 months, but it took about 1.5 years to get to that point.
That's not bad, because a lot of people sometimes have it in their pocket for like 1 year, 2 years, and
I would never
are
do
planning
that.
a tour and all that, because it's so complicated these days.
Yeah, it is, but I can't really do that because everything to me is like, I have to feel passionate about it, and for that to happen, it's like these experiences have to be kind of more or less like on the tip of my tongue, and like me be dying to say these things. So if I had it in my pocket, I mean, some of the songs I've had for maybe 1 year, but there's always like, production and finessing, like all of that has taken about 1.5 years. And I've always looked at this as not just like individual songs, but I've really looked at it as like a project. So the whole project to complete, the first song maybe was written like 1 year ago, but the last song, like where we were like, oh, this is the final piece of the puzzle, which was a song called Dade County Dreaming, which kind of finished the kind of Miami piece of the album. That was, I think, like that was done maybe 3 months ago was when I wrote that song. So yeah,
It's still fresh.
yeah, so still
good.
pretty fresh. I'm terrible with time, to be honest with you. So it might have been 5 months ago. I just know it was definitely this year. I think I'm terrible with time. I have no concept of time. But I was looking through my phone because I wanted to do like a little kind of like behind the scenes post. And this album has taken like 1 year, 1.5 years for me, Gincho, and Jasper, who I made the album with, to create. And yeah, it's been crazy because, we started off making kind of all kinds of songs. And then, there was one song called Chanel No. 5 that kind of became like the thesis statement for the album. And everything kind of started falling into place after that song. And that became kind of like the character, the voice of XOXO. So yeah, after Chanel No. 5 was like, I love it, was like, He Knows, was like all of these songs after we knew that, like, after I did Chanel No. 5, it was like, oh, this is XOXO. That's like the character.
I'm assuming it's going to translate to a tour.
Hell yeah, Mikey Piff.
And are all these colors and these things, like, do you have it plotted out already? Is like,
Sure
it's already
do.
there?
So we're doing this kind of like mini festival tour in Europe. So we've been rehearsing for it, and it's like mostly songs from the new album. So it's like it's really living in the XOXO world. And the dancers that I have with me, it's like the first time I've had all girl dancers, and they're called the XOXO girls, and we're like a little squad, and it feels like it's like my friends on stage, and we have like robot dogs.
I was going to ask, because when I saw you performing on Fallon, I was like,
Alone.
are those the Boston Dynamic like, are those the robots? And
Right.
I'm like, how did that even, because I'm a giant nerd, and I'm like, how did that even happen? That was the first thing.
Well, I love that you're a giant nerd. I feel like one of the themes of this album is kind of like being technologically innovative. And I can't remember what it was that, like, you know, I think it was inspired. I remember saying that when, just because it was like we were making this album as this new, like all these AI conversations were happening. And, you know, I was just always like, how can we use AI? Like, how can we, like, you know, because I feel like it's an artist's job to also like reflect the times. And yeah, so we were talking about AI, and I just like, I'm always curious about how to do new things, especially in this very technologically advanced age that we're in. And the creative director, one of the creative directors for the show, Ferran, one of the themes of the album is dogs, because in one song, with this song Chanel No. 5, I say I'm a dog, woof woof, because I'm talking about, you know, my experience with this one guy. But and the whole kind of like mascot animal of the XOXO world is like a female dog, which we know what that's. She's bitchy. She's bitchy. You know, who's like aggressive but also feminine. And so he was like, "Oh, there's like these robot dogs or whatever," and he like showed me a video, and I was like, "Well, yeah, we need those." That's good.
Call up, guys. I need the dogs.
I need the dogs.
Bring it.